What is something that's quietly tearing homes apart while everybody thinks they're fine? Well, I'll tell you, unity and agreement, because they are not the same thing. They're just not. And if you or I confuse them, then our marriages, our families, our homes, our relationships will pay for it. Let's be honest. Have you ever had a conversation with your spouse where you agreed and somehow you then walked away feeling worse? I know I have. And you're like, cool. Well, we decided, yay, got that taken care of, right? Because that tone is heavy and it makes the air feel heavy because you're agreeing, but not necessarily unified. And have you ever had a moment where you didn't agree, but you walked away feeling closer, more connected, more understood, more like a team? Why? Why is that? Well, it's because agreement is a moment, but unity is a covenant. And a lot of couples, a lot of marriages don't have unity. They have silence, they have compliance, they have avoidance, and they call it peace. But is it? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about it. You guys, welcome to the Kingdom Family Movement Podcast. I am your host, Sam Velasquez, and I'm really excited you're here to listen to this one. And listen, we're just going to have a simple, straightforward conversation. If you're here for the first time, listen, most of the time, I'm bringing something that I believe is rooted in principle truth. It is something, and when I say principle, I mean it doesn't change. And so whether I'm talking to a married couple, a family, or someone's home, it's principles. So that means it applies to any area of our life when we really stop and think about it. So maybe you're using this as an entrepreneur, or you're using this as a business owner, a pastor for your church. It could be so many different things. And so if you are here for the first time, just know that the foundation of this podcast, KFM, Kingdom Family Movement, is really rooted in the idea of reigniting marriages, realigning families, and restoring the home. Okay. According to God's original design and intent. That is absolutely the foundation of this podcast. But the principle of what we talk about can move outward from there for sure. And so without delay, first of all, thank you for being here. And if it's your first time, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I love putting this stuff out there because I do believe it makes an impact. Even if it's one person, it matters. And so we're going to keep this very simple. And here's what I want to give you today. Okay. I want to give you a clear definition of what unity versus agreement is. Okay. And then I want to talk about why we keep confusing them, and then leave you with a simple tool that we can use this week to build unity even when we disagree. Okay. No fluff. Okay. Just simple, something that is straightforward, something you can actually use in your home, in your marriage, in your relationships, with your kids. So let's keep this plain. Let's keep it simple. Okay. Agreement means we share the same opinion on a specific point. It's the same view, same decision, same conclusion. That's agreement. Unity, on the other hand, means we share the same allegiance. And we'll come back to that word allegiance, because allegiance to what needs to be answered too. But either way, unity means we share the same allegiance. It's the same center, the same covenant, the same mission for the home, for your marriage, for whatever that may be. Okay, agreement is external. It's words, decisions, preferences, whereas unity is more internal. It's about commitment, honor, shared direction. Agreement is something that can be temporary, whereas unity has to be chosen. Okay, just to be clear, you can agree on the budget and still be divided. You can agree on the schedule and still feel alone. You can agree to keep the peace. You ever done that before? I don't think you can be married in any capacity and not have done something to quote unquote keep the peace. And yet, resentment can still be growing inside of us like mold behind the wall that we don't see. Okay. But on the flip side, you can disagree, about parenting and still be united. You can disagree about strategy and still be aligned, and you can disagree about timing and still be one, because unity isn't sameness. It isn't agreement. Unity is shared allegiance. Here's an example, very, very practical. Okay. How I sometimes handle situations with our kids, my wife doesn't always agree on. How? Why, though, she 100% is unified with me, because we are in allegiance. We're in allegiance to the principle of how we're going to raise our kids and the things we want to teach and instill in them. Does that make sense? I hope it does. It's very simple, and I know it makes sense because it's relatable, and we've all mostly been there in some capacity. So why do we then confuse unity with agreement? Why do we confuse these? I think there's three common reasons I'll give you. One of them is we fear conflict. This is huge, and I'm not going to get off on a rabbit trail on these, but man, I could. We fear conflict. This could be its own podcast, because we've been conditioned and trained to avoid conflict as if it's bad. We think conflict is bad, and it's not. Okay. How we handle it, on the other hand, is what we don't like. That's a different thing. Anyhow, but the first reason is we fear conflict. Okay. We've seen arguments go sideways. We've seen words turn into wounds. So we start treating disagreement like danger, like, oh, not going there, red flag, stop, let's not work through this. But disagreement isn't danger, okay? Disrespect is danger. Just as an example. Okay? The second reason is we want control. And I hope, listen, transparently speaking, I can relate to both of these thus far, because we've all felt them, experienced them, and probably lived them in some capacity, whether we realized it or not. But the second reason is we want control. I know I want control, right? The real question is why. And that's a deeper rooted issue, and we got to work through that. But we want control. If you agree with me, I feel safe. If you agree with me, it's like confirmation bias. We love it. If you disagree with me, I feel threatened. I feel like you're attacking me. Okay. So we chase agreement as if it's security, but it's not. It is not security. Agreement can be bought. Unity, on the other hand, cannot. You cannot put a price on unity, but you can buy agreement. And the third reason is we make it personal. Ugh, this could be a tough one for some of us, right? We take things so personal, right? We don't like conflict. We want to be in control, and we make it personal. Okay. Some of us didn't learn how to separate this phrase, I disagree with you, from I reject you. And that's where it gets super toxic, right? Because we think that when someone disagrees with us, they're rejecting us. And the truth is, they're not the same thing at all. But that is absolutely where it goes south. It gets really bad, because now every disagreement feels like betrayal, and it's not betrayal. It's life. If I could put it that way, it is life. Welcome to life. Okay. It's two people, often in most scenarios, context here, I'm thinking mostly of just marriage. It's two people learning how to become one without erasing each other, right? I don't want my wife to agree with me, but not be unified. That actually doesn't build cohesiveness. Okay. So quick recap. Okay. The three reasons why we confuse them is because, one, we fear conflict, we want control, and we make it personal. Remember, you are not being rejected or betrayed. You're just simply being disagreed with. And it is not a bad thing, right? Here's the hard line. Some of us aren't fighting for unity. We're fighting for our way. Ugh, I don't like that. Why would I say that? Ugh, so convicting, right? Because we all want our way. But that doesn't actually bring about unity. Okay, so let me break it down this way. Okay. The two fakes, okay, that look like unity. Now, let me expose these two things that look like unity, but they just aren't. Okay. And I'll be honest, I have fell for them too. Okay. The first one, okay, fake unity is compliance. Okay. One person always folds. Think about it, right? You can observe your own marriage, your conversations, your battles, your fights, your just whatever you want to call them. You can observe them and you can probably determine, ugh, I'm falling for fake unity by always being in compliance. Okay. One person always folds. The other person calls it leadership, but it's not leadership. It's domination. It's a perversion of it, right? It's domination dressed up in spiritual language. And it's so toxic. It's so bad. And I've been on the end of both spectrums. Okay. So listen, I'm not above any of this stuff, but I'm sharing it because I think it can be extremely helpful. If one voice always wins, that's not unity. That's control. Okay. So again, the first facade or fake idea of unity is compliance. The second one is coexistence. Okay. To um coexistence, right? It's same house, same calendar, same bills, separate hearts. You see, we are like roommates with a ring, smiling in public, but distant in private. And here's the scary part. You can do that for years. People do it for years. You can agree on everything necessary to function and still not be united. Oh, that saddens my heart. And and I think it's applicable for so many relationships out there, not just within the context of marriage. Okay, it could be friendships, it could be work environments, it could be church, so many things. Okay, so here are a few kind of like diagnostic questions, if you want to call them that. Ask yourself this is do we have real conversations or just decisions? Do we repair or do we reset and pretend? Ugh, that's a tough one. Is there trust or just teamwork? My wife and I make a great team, but who cares if we don't actually trust each other? Nobody wants that. See, are we committed to each other's good or just committed to getting through the week? Man, there's such a stark difference. I could dive into that and I'm not because I want to keep going and get you some tools and then eventually land this plane. But because here's the thing your home doesn't need more agreement, it needs unity. Okay, so here's a little reset, if you want to call it that. So you may be asking, so what do I do? Where do I go from here? Right. Well, I'm going to give you, as I always do, the one principle, the one practice, and the one movement you can take. Okay. The simple principle is, I've already said it, is unity is shared allegiance to the covenant, not shared opinions. We all have tons of opinions. And most of the time, my opinions don't matter. They're essentially worthless, especially if, and it doesn't mean that what I have to say or think doesn't matter. It's just that my opinion is only worth the amount of unity or covenant it's attached to. It's the allegiance, right? Again, so the principle is unity is shared allegiance to the covenant, not shared opinions. Let me say it another way. Unity is when both of you can look at each other and say, I'm with you. I'm for you. I'm not leaving. We're building, even when you see it differently. That is the principle you want to live in and live by. Okay. So disagreement doesn't threaten unity unless your unity was never real. Oof, that hits hard. I'm going to say it again. Disagreement doesn't threaten unity unless your unity was never real. Yikes. That's tough to hear. Think about that. So remember, when you're going into a conversation, maybe prompt yourself, and I'm adding this isn't in my notes, is I am in alignment and unified with the allegiance that my wife and I, or that my husband and I have made. Right. And again, we'll talk more about allegiance here in a minute. So how do we practice this, right? How do we practice covenant and category? Okay. This is a tool. So write it down if you need to. Okay. Covenant and category. So when conflict comes up, you do two things. Okay. One is covenant, right? What is the center? What is the thing we are, standing on? What is the foundation? So before you talk, and I was giving you this, before you talk details, remind each other what you're committed to. Okay. You could say something, for example, hey, before we get into this, I'm with you, I'm for you. And I gave you those examples. We're on the same team. Remember, okay, we're not here to, be mad if we're disagreeing. We're here to be unified in the process and aligned, right, to the covenant, to the allegiance. Okay. And hey, this isn't about winning and losing. Okay. We're trying to build. Okay. Our marriage matters more than the moment. That's covenant. That's center. Okay. Category. Okay. So there's covenant, then category, which is like the edge, right? Then you label the disagreement so it stops feeling like betrayal. This is so key. Listen, and my wife and I have not mastered this by any stretch, but it's just recognizing that it's okay to disagree so we can know that it's just disagreement and it's not betrayal. It's not me leaving, her leaving. It's not abandonment. It's not any of that. Okay. Most arguments fall into one of these three categories. Okay. The first one is conviction, wisdom, and preference. So conviction could be a biblical or moral non-negotiable. Okay. We are a foundational family who builds and stands on the word of God. I'm just using it as an example. We are convicted by the truth of God's word that tells us unless he builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. It could be something like that, right? Then we build on wisdom. Okay, what's the best route, timing, and approach we can take to whatever it may be? And preference, this is just the style, the comfort, the personal taste that you want to bring into it. Okay, so let's make this real. Okay, here's an example: parenting conflict. Okay, one spouse is like, oh, geez, you're too strict. You're too hard on them. Okay, sound familiar? I was giving you this example earlier because this is common for my wife and I. She, not always, but sometimes it would be more relatable for me to say she thinks I'm too strict sometimes. The other says, you're too soft. That would be me. Well, you're not, blah, 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 blah. So now we're disagreeing. Okay. But before we fight about if I'm too strict or she's too soft, we say this, for example. Okay, covenant first. We're on the same team. We both want whole kids. We both want, you know, kids that become functioning adults in society. Okay, we both want a strong home. So then the category is this: it's conviction, wisdom, preference. Most of the time it's wisdom. And when you label it as wisdom, you stop treating the other person like an enemy, because sometimes the soft approach is wisdom for her and it works. And sometimes the strict approach, and we could define those, but we won't, is wisdom for me because it works. Now you can problem solve like a team, right? And little side note and a little bit extra for you, because not that you need it, but just a bonus. If one spouse does something completely the opposite than the other, but you can stay unified and grounded in covenant and allegiance, win. uh, I'm getting two of something and only having to operate in one because that's how God created her to do it. This is how he created me to do it. And we can both learn from each other. I can learn to be softer. She can learn to be more strict. One's not better. One's not right, because we're not predicating it on an opinion. Okay. It's rooted in something deeper, covenant. Okay. So, or take money. Okay. How about money is a big and common topic. We hear this often. Most arguments stem because of something to do with money. You're arguing about spending. Okay. Covenant first. We're building a future. We're stewarding. We're not against each other. So the category would be like, is this conviction? Is it wisdom? Is it preference? Maybe one person's conviction is stewardship. Listen, my wife is so convicted about stewardship and money management. It's amazing, and I love it. And I don't even try to be good at it, to be honest. I just like, you got this. You are so gifted. She literally has the gift of administration, like 10x. And right, the other person's wisdom is flexibility, where it's like, listen, we can't live in fear either. Okay, so now we have two different approaches, two different views. We don't necessarily agree, but we can be unified. Okay, so now we can actually talk, now we can actually align because we're not just debating numbers, we're actually discerning what our values are. It's so much different. Okay, listen, here's a script you can use tonight if you want. You could say something like, babe, I call my wife babe. I think a lot of men call their wives babe, but you know, babe, I'm with you. Okay, is this conviction, wisdom, or preference? Right? What, and these are just questions, right? You're letting her know, or maybe in your case, you're letting him know. And then you're just saying, like, what outcomes are we both trying to protect, right? What would honoring each other look like right now? What's one next step we can agree on today? Right? These are just examples. Okay. I know that's a lot for the practice, but that's covenant and category. And I think it's huge to understand it because you can come back, re-listen to this concept because when you actually start to apply it, it's amazing. Okay. So much more effective if that makes sense. Um, now I'm thinking, man, did I overlook the movement that I was going to give you? I feel like I did. No, I didn't. I did not overlook the movement I was going to give you, but I wanted to make sure I didn't overlook it. Okay. So again, okay, covenant, category, script it, things you can bring up to your spouse. Okay. Maybe these things apply to you more in the context of as an entrepreneur, someone who's going to church. Okay. So not to confuse it, but we can widen the lens of this without necessarily leaving the home. All right. Because what you practice in your marriage, you can export everywhere else. Okay. So if you're an entrepreneur, if all you have on your team is agreement, you get compliance. Okay. People nod, they smile, but in the end, they're not really unified. Okay. It just, nobody wants that. Unity is deeper than agreement. Unity is shared values, shared direction, shared trust under pressure. Okay. Maybe you're someone who goes to church, right? This happens everywhere we go. See, unity is not everybody having the same preference. It's everybody having the same allegiance, same Lord, same mission, same commitment to truth and love in the same room. Okay. And let me say this gently. Some some people demand agreement because they don't know how to walk in honor. Okay, but honor is the bridge. Unity doesn't require you to surrender conviction. Unity requires you to surrender contempt. Okay, we do not want to be in contempt. Okay, so here's the charge that I have for you. Okay, your home doesn't need to avoid tension. Okay, it's part of life. Your home, though, needs to return to covenant again and again. Unity is not built by getting your spouse to agree with you. It's built by refusing to treat disagreement like betrayal. So here's your action step, right? Here's the thing, the movement, if you want to call it that, is have one covenant, okay, and category conversation. Pick one reoccurring friction point, maybe. Maybe it's money, maybe it's parenting, maybe it's intimacy, schedules, roles. Okay, start with covenant. Name the category and then choose one next step. And then repair it quickly. Be quick to forgive, quick to express how it is you want to be aligned in this and that you're for them, you're with them, you're not here to betray or leave them. Even if you disagree, you're united in the allegiance. Okay. It's simple, but we just got to practice it. I'm going to leave you with these two questions. Okay. And think about them and then answer them for yourselves. Okay. Where have you been chasing agreement because you're afraid to pursue unity? I'll say it one more time. Where have you been chasing agreement because you're afraid to pursue unity? Okay. Take your time. Don't rush through this. Really think about it. Okay. And where have you been settling for peace when what you really need was alignment? Think about that because it really sounds good to settle for peace. But what we really need is alignment. And I'm not talking about peace that passes all understanding. I'm not talking about a peace that God gives you that the world can't. No, I'm talking about when you settle for keeping the peace through avoidance and not wanting to deal with what it is you really need to be aligned. There is a stark difference. Okay. Keep going. Go back to the covenant, build the home, and do me a favor. If this helped you, if this helped shed some light on the difference between agreement or disagreement and unity, or agreement and unity, better yet, then share this with a friend. Okay. Have the conversation with your spouse. Okay. I appreciate you tuning in as always, you guys. And listen, if you want a simple principle, practice, and movement you can take with you every single week outside of the podcast, do me a favor. In the show note links below, I've put it there because I put it up every single Monday to your inbox, but a simple principle, practice, and movement you can take through the KFM 111 weekly reset email that I send to your inbox every Monday for free. So go ahead, sign up for that if you haven't. As always, follow us here, leave a comment, share this with a friend because we want to have a greater reach and impact on all the marriages, families, and homes out there that we can. I am Sam Velasquez with the Kingdom Family Movement Podcast, and we will see you on the other side. Peace.